Way next, I'm chatting to Justin Hayward, probably best known for fronting the Moody Blues. But, you know, don't forget he's also had a very, very extensive solo career as well. And he's coming to Liverpool on tour in the autumn. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to play the classic Nights in White Satin before we chat to him. This is a great song. He wrote this when he was 19, can you believe?
Nights in white satin,
well, do you know what? He's been in the music industry for over 50 years, got one of the most recognisable voices there in rock, having fronted that fabulous group, the Moody Blues. Sold 55 million albums worldwide. Justin Hayward also enjoyed a massive solo success as well with the global hit Forever Autumn and many more. And you know, he's back with a brand new album and tour, which is coming to Liverpool Philharmonic this autumn. Delighted to say, joins us this morning. Justin, how are you?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. Lovely to talk to you.
Do you know what, Justin? You wrote that song when you were 19. What was going on in your life to come up with a classic like that at 19?
Well, it's a curious thing to be asked about 3 or 4 minutes in your life, years later. And I tried to think about what happened, objectively. All I remember is that I came home after a gig one night, and I sat on the side of the bed. I was at the end of one big love affair and at the beginning of another, which is quite important when you're that age. And it was just a series of kind of thoughts, really, that I put down. And it just came straight from the heart. And I suppose... none of us in the group ever thought that anybody would ever listen to this record or be interested in it. So I don't think any of us gave it much thought, really. But if I'd have known, I'd have run a mile. I suppose if I'd have known what was going to happen.
I mean, that's gone down as one of the most, romantic, orchestral, influential love songs of all time. There've been loads of cover versions of that song. Have you got a favourite, Justin?
Yeah, my favourite is by a girl called Betty Lavette.
Right.
And she's a blues singer and R&B singer from Detroit. And 4 or 5 years ago, she did a version of it that really struck home with me, and I kind of heard it for the first time when I heard her version. Very odd to write a song that when you're that young and then 19 or 20, and then to hear it for the first time when you're in your 60s is an odd thing. But she sang it, every word exactly the same, but it had a kind of different meaning to her about the relationship with her daughter.
I know. And
she wrote to me about that, and it was lovely. It was a beautiful letter, and it's one of her highlights in her show as well. I would recommend anybody listening to her. She's a great singer. Betty Lavette, her name is. Yeah.
Wow. Now, I've heard you say in other interviews, Justin, that you wouldn't actually be starting out today because the music industry, it's changed so much in 50 years. And when you started, you had to be good, didn't you? You had to be able to sing without the whistles and bells, and you had to sell records, didn't you?
Well, I think more important than that, you had to be able to create something in a room. But I think there are kids today who are doing that, and I would never knock or criticize the music of today because the music of your youth stays with you all your life, and all of the kids that are falling in love and having relationships or enjoying the songs that they love today, brand new music, that will stay with them, I believe, for the rest of their lives. And I think the one advice I would give to any young artist coming now, if they can create a bit of magic in a room, with a guitar or instantly, then that's the way to survive, because the music business is so fickle and it's transient and it changes so quickly. And I know from personal experiences, it seems like I've had some successes, but the things that we've done that have failed that are so numerous. But you have to play live, I think, is the most important thing, and to be able to do that and create something in a room.
Wow. I mean, the music industry, as you say, it's changed dramatically. But as far as songwriting's concerned, I mean, you're a prolific songwriter. Does that come easy to you, Justin? Is that something you were born with?
No, it doesn't come easy. I think I'm not worried about sort of running out of inspiration, because you know the more experiences you have and the more relationships you have, you can draw on those, and often people don't even know that I'm writing about them or about my relationships. And I still look back to those young years and things, and the kind of what ifs and that kind of stuff. But I think that Picasso said inspiration has to find you working, and if I go into my music room and actually put the time into doing something, something will come out of it. You know, if I just sit around thinking about it, waiting for some kind of inspiration to land on my head, then it's not going to happen. But
No.
if I put my mind to it, something will happen. And I'm very pleased. You know, I've got my lovely guitars, and songs usually come out of those anyway, magically.
I know in the early days you worked with Lonnie Donegan. Did he have a big inspiration on your career? Because he did with a lot, didn't he, with the Beatles and co?
Not really. I think I was aware of Lonnie, and of course he was important in the Skiffle days. But then I got to know him. But the biggest influence on me, personally, of course, was Buddy Holly. But then I was lucky enough to get my first job playing guitar for Marty Wilde.
Oh, yeah.
He's still my hero. And actually, I met Lonnie through Marty, because we did a summer season in Great Yarmouth, and when I was with Marty, and that was when Marty, really told me to, listen, to get your own identity and your style. You must start writing so that what you're doing represents your own personality, not just cover versions or anything like that, because Marty was writing then. He was one of the few rock and rollers that did write his own songs.
Because you were one of the Wild Three, weren't you?
I was one of the Wild Three, yeah. Yeah, I was one of the Wildcats, and then we came down to the Wild Three, yeah.
That was with Marty and his wife, wasn't it?
Yeah, Marty and his wife Joyce, who was one of the Vernon's girls,
That's
as a matter of
right,
fact. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had the pleasure of meeting Marty Wilde. I've worked with him myself, and I've got to say, he's one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Oh, my hero, and will always be. And it was a curious thing. I turned up at a house in East London for the audition. I asked an ad in the Melody Maker, and I'd only been out of school for a few months. And I came up from Swindon and with my guitar and knocked on the door of this house in East London. And Marty Wilde opened the door. I had no idea that it was for him, that I was auditioning.
Oh, yeah.
And Marty's 6'5",
That's right.
and I'm 6'2". I spent the first couple of years of my professional life looking up to somebody, which was odd for me. But I still look up to him. He's still my hero.
Wow. And there's a great clip on YouTube I look at a lot, of you singing one of Clifford T. Ward's songs.
Oh yeah, the best is yet to come. Yes. Yeah. Well, I knew I was, privileged to know Clifford T. And I think a lot of listeners will know of my generation what an underrated and
immensely
undercredited songwriter he was, and one of the deserved much more recognition. But I did a version of that song with Peter Knight, who did the arrangements on the orchestral arrangements on the Days of Future Past album. It was we became family friends, myself and Peter and his family, and it was one of the very last things I did before he died in the mid-'80s. Yes, so that song always resonates for two reasons: for Clifford T. and for Peter Knight.
Sure,
with me.
And I absolutely love Blue Guitar, and that was done with some of the lads from 10cc, wasn't it?
Yes, it was originally recorded while the Moody's split up for about 3 years in the 70s. And just before that happened, I recorded Blue Guitar with Eric Stewart, Lol Cream, Kevin Godley, and Graham Gouldman on bass at Strawberry Studios in Stockport. And then Decca didn't want to release it because the Moody's were still together, and didn't want any solo things. And it was only after an album called Blue Jays they were rushing around looking for something desperate to release. And they said, "Oh, you've got that thing," and then I had a couple of tracks. So they remixed it and put an orchestra on it and put it out under different names. But I was only recently was able to find the original mix of it with just the people that were on the original, actually played on the record, which is me, Eric, Graham, Lol, and Kevin.
Wow.
And it's a lovely version, and it's on a compilation called All the Way that has just come out this year that I'm very pleased with.
Sure. So tell us about the tour, Justin. You're coming to the Philharmonic Hall in October, aren't you?
Yeah, looking forward to it very much. Yes, and I'm with. It's an acoustic tour for me, so I bring my guitars out from home, and it's as I wrote the songs. Really, it's like my demos of the songs. I've always done demos of my songs before I played them to anybody, and so. It's the sound of the original records. I'm with a wonderful young guitar player called Mike Dawes, and worth the price of admission on his own. Really, I go and watch him every night. He opens up the show for me.
Right.
A truly astounding player. And Julie Reagans, who's been with me for a while, who works with the Moody's as well, keyboard player, multi-instrumentalist, and got the voice of an angel. And we all love these songs, and I get to do Forever Autumn, a lot of solo things, and a lot of things from the deeper album cuts from the Moody's, things like Watching and Waiting, Never Comes the Day,
I know.
that don't work in a big kind of loud situation. So I'm coming up your way on the first Sunday, the 1st of October, and looking forward to it very much. Yeah, it's a privilege for me to play at the Philharmonic Hall, and a dream come true, really, this tour. Some of the gigs on this tour are really wonderful.
But I think it's great for your fans as well, Justin. This is a more intimate setting than the big arenas that you play with the Moody's, and I think that's special for the fans, isn't it?
I hope so, and I'm able to tell the stories behind the songs and what was going on at the time, and which is always quite interesting, in the background to some of these songs. And I think I'm going to do a couple of Mike Pinder's songs as well, because I've been doing them lately. I've been out with the Moody's, but I've been doing little things on the side. I went to the Grammy Museum and did a little set there with Julie, and we did a couple of Mike Pinder songs, and they went so well. Ones that I'd sung anyway, years ago, and it's lovely. Yes. It's a lovely setting, and this show is a joy for me, and I hope that other people who like this music or think, I quite like that guy's voice, will come along and enjoy it too.
You're being very modest, Justin. You really are.
Well, I'm one of those people where people never know my name, but they're like, "Oh, that's that Moody Blues guy's voice." They know the voice.
And I know you're big on social media because you value your fans so closely, don't you?
Well, I'd like to do more, I'd like to do more, but in truth, I never know quite how to handle that. But of course, whatever I do is because of the people that love this music and want to share it. And I'm lucky enough to never been under pressure to make a hit or anything. And because of that, I've made some mistakes as well, But I've always had a label that's prepared to accept what I'm prepared to give, and
I know.
That's the same with the fans as well. I've never sort of demanded a hit or anything, but they've stuck by me and the Moody's over the years.
Well, you've given us some fabulous stuff over the years, Justin. A great pleasure to talk to you today. And if I can, I'd like to finish the interview with a song called "I Know You're Out There Somewhere," one of my favourites.
Oh yeah, it's my favourite on stage. All the audience joins in and they get on their feet, and it seems to resonate. It's a feeling that a lot of people seem to share.
Well, it'll be great to see you back in Liverpool in October. Great, thank you so much for being on the show today, Justin, and thanks for all the wonderful stuff you've given us over the years.
Oh, I really appreciate it. Love to you and to all there. I look forward to seeing everybody in October.
Thank you very much, Justin.
Cheers.
I know you're out there somewhere, somewhere, somewhere.
There you go, make a note in your diary. He's coming to town. He's coming to the Philharmonic Hall just in Hayward on the 1st of October. What a nice man.